Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm going to do something really tasty today. I'm always doing something really tasty, but actually today I'm going to make something for breakfast. I'm going to make English muffins and I'm going to show you the entire process. It's actually really simple and you know what? You'll never have to buy them in the shops again. So let's get into it. Let's make some English muffins for breakfast. I hope you've got your jam ready. And I've got my jam ready as well. Let's get started with our first steps. And you know the drill, guys. If you've seen some of our videos, you know the drill with bread making. We always have to put in our liquid first. So in this case, I'm using milk. You can use plant-based milk if you wanted to as well. I use whole milk because I love whole milk. And then we're adding in our yeast. I use a dry active yeast, the small granules, 1 teaspoon's worth. Is all you need, and you can find in the link in the description below. I also have the amount of fresh yeast if you are using it that you can use for this recipe, and adding in my sugar. And what we always do is we warm this up first. We bring it to an ambient temperature of about 37 degrees so that our flour can work well with it. It can rise nicely. The yeast has some sugar to process and it gets really nice and warm, which gets our dough going really well. So let's pop that on. Next we're going to add in our flour. You want to always create a little barrier between your yeast and your salt, because if you bring the salt in direct contact with yeast, it'll die. And we don't want that, do we? We want happy bread. We don't want dead bread. And I'm going to add in my sea salt flakes. You can also just use any fine sea salt if you liked. We're going to add in an egg. The egg's for good texture, and it also closes off the pores a little bit more, which means we can soak up that lovely Hollandaise if we're going to make some Eggs Benedict, for example, with our muffin. And that really does something quite nice. And just a bit of butter. I use fridge temperature butter. It doesn't have to be room temperature at all because you're going to be kneading it anyway. And then we're going to pop this on, knead it, and then we're going to leave this to rise either in this bowl, or if you have my Thermi serve bowls, which are really awesome, you can put them in the Thermi serve bowls, leave the dough in there, and it will actually create a wonderful temperature that will stay warm for the whole time, which means it acts almost like a little proving cupboard. Check it out in the link in the description below and have a little look. They are really awesome. I use it for almost everything actually. So pop it on, knead it, and then I'll see you once this is risen really nicely. Now it's been about 45 minutes I'd say, and our dough has rested really nicely. It could take a bit longer, depends on how warm or cold it is. As you can see, it's really nice and warm today, so it's a bit faster. It's about doubled in size. It looks really nice. That's how we want our muffin dough to look. All I do now is actually take my flour and flour I've got a silicone baking mat here. If you want to get one of those beautiful reusable silicone baking mats, which are actually really awesome, go follow the link in the description below. That is where you will find a lot of reusable bakeware and eco-friendly bakeware, which is amazing and designed by me. So just put a little bit of flour on. I also add a little bit of semolina just to give it some extra texture, and with muffins I find semolina does really well. In the background you might hear a noise. That is my cast ironware heating up, so make sure you heat up your cast ironware really nicely during this time so that it's at a nice steady temperature by the time you're ready with your muffins. Then all I do is I tip out the muffin mixture, the dough, wait till it comes down, and that should be quite nice and easy like that. This is a beautiful dough, really beautiful dough. And then you just scrape out any leftovers. There's hardly anything left over in here anyway, but if you do have anything left over, just scrape it out and make sure you take every last bit. We then remove our knife, our blade. Be careful with your hands here. I wouldn't recommend you do what I just did. Just let it come out naturally. I try and tease it out as much as I can. And then all you do is add a little bit of flour on top. Give it a light dusting, make sure it doesn't stick anywhere, and then you can just flatten it a little bit. You don't want to do too much to this dough, and then you just use your rolling pin, roll it out, not too flat. I'd say about 3 centimeters, perhaps 4 centimeters, and then you just cut out little muffins. I use a round cutter for this. You can safely cut out cookies on the silicone baking mat. You can't cut into the silicone baking mat though with a knife. Just cut it out and then place these guys onto a prepared tray where you've basically used, again, just a little bit of semolina to dust it, because the semolina will really help with your cast iron baking ware for it to not stick. We'll just keep cutting this out, and then I'm going to show you how to bake these guys. They're all done now. I've cut them out. I've dusted them with a little bit more semolina on top. You could also use polenta, by the way, so it's totally up to you what you like. The semolina is a little bit finer and the polenta is a bit coarser and gives you a slightly different flavour. I now will actually fry them straight away. You could at home, if you have the time, and if you're not as hungry as I am right now, you could leave them for approximately another half an hour. Just cover them up. You could use your silicone baking mat just to cover up the top. Make sure you use the part that was floured on top of the muffins rather than the other side, because that's the sticky side. And then they will puff up a little bit more. It just depends what you like. I'm in a bit of a rush because hungry is much more important right now. Hunger is my thing. But if you do have the time, leave it for a little while before you actually fry them. Then we're going to just basically pop them onto our cast iron skillet. If you don't have a skillet, use a non-stick frying pan at home. Just leave it without oil. We just want to brown them. We don't want to fry them or deep fry them or anything like that. Cast iron just does really well because it gives you a really lovely flavour. And you just pop them on one by one, just like that. And you could fry about 4 at a time, I'd say, for this particular cast iron pan. You'll see it being quite hot at the beginning. It'll settle down. The cast ironware was preheated about 10 minutes on a medium heat. It should have a nice and steady heat, and that's exactly what you want. So let's fry them for about 3 minutes on one side, then I'll flip them over to the other side, fry them for another couple to 3 minutes, and you'll see them actually going quite golden brown, and that's when we can start tucking in. That was it. Our English muffins, breakfast muffins, are now done. I can't wait to tuck into them actually. They look really, really beautiful. They're perfectly cooked. I've left them for about 3 minutes on each side. Control your temperature really nicely. If you notice that they're getting a little bit dark on one side, just take off the cast iron pan for a minute from the heat completely so it cools down a tiny bit, and then you can control that temperature that way. And they should be perfectly cooked through. They should feel a little bit soft to the touch, but completely cooked on the outsides. That will tell you that they cook on the inside. Leave them for another couple minutes before you're opening them up, because they're still steaming inside, and that's what makes them so lovely and fluffy. And then you can serve them up with, for example, Eggs Benedict, so Hollandaise sauce, a little bit of poached egg. Check out my other videos and a link in the description below for the poached eggs and also for my take on Hollandaise sauce. And you could have yourself a really, really lovely breakfast. I'm going to have myself a really lovely breakfast now. So I'll see you guys next time. Make sure to subscribe to my channel for more amazing videos. Yummy!